last, we found out why America's scientists, professors, and otherwise guys were attacked with a case of the galloping dumbs. It was all the fault of a mean little man from a mean little country.
Go on, say the name.
Pennsylvania.
Not that name, the other name.
Oh, Boris Badenov.
Ta-da!
Yes, armed with a weapon which fired clouds of a strange substance called goof gas, Boris was lowering the nation's IQ in a hurry.
You boys stop playing in that mother. I'll tell your father, the doctor.
Well, that is my father, the doctor.
What's more, in our last episode, Boris even managed to get a shot at Rocky and Bullwinkle. The effect on Rocky was immediate.
Tell me about the rabbits, George.
But the effect on Bullwinkle was negligible.
Didn't bother me much either.
See? Shortly after that, the two villains headed south toward the nation's capital, but found their goof gas of little use.
Mr. Chairman, I propose we set up a $28 million committee to find out why the government is spending so much money.
Boris, what he said. You think he's already had some goof gas?
Natasha, what he said, that is goof gas.
And so the two no-goodniks headed further south toward one of the country's most strategic areas.
Welcome to Cape Carnivorous.
All spies must register with security officer.
Come on.
We're not going to register.
Who's going to spy? We're just going to sabotage.
Halt! Who goes there?
Watch. Hey, Sonny. It's sure nice to see you on the job there. Here's my pass.
But I don't think...
Now stand aside, young man.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
And the goofy guard allowed Boris and Natasha to enter the top-secret missile base. Be with us next
Now,
time.
just a minute. This isn't the end.
No, but it won't be long now.
Oh, good heavens. Meanwhile, back in McKeesport, PA...
Rocky, baby, speak to me.
Sure, who are you?
Who am I?
So you're wondering too?
I'm your pal, your good ever so best friend.
My best friend?
Yeah, now speak to me.
Hello, Mom.
Mom?
A squirrel's best friend is his mother.
Boy, I never thought I'd wind up as the smart one on this show.
Well, everybody ready to start to work?
Yes, it was Captain Peter Peachfuzz.
Captain, you're back to normal.
Yes, I haven't been there in years either. All those ivy-covered halls.
Where?
At Normal, of course. Waxahachie Normal, my old alma mater.
I mean, you don't have the galloping dumbs anymore.
Oh, those. No, I recovered in about 2 days, Bullwinkle.
2 days? Then that means in a little while Rocky will be back to normal.
I didn't know he was an alumnus.
He's not, he's a squirrel.
And sure enough, at that moment, our little hero shook his head and said...
Hey, I'm back to normal.
Oh, Waxahachie, fair and proud, thy sons and daughters sing out loud.
Hey, what's with Captain Peach Fuzz?
He's back to normal, too.
Our praise for you will never cease. All hail Magenta and Cerise.
But what happened?
We know what happened, so let's see what Boris and Natasha are up to.
We're up to about 75 feet from home plate.
Good heavens, those two miserable loafers are sneaking up on one of our missile launch control centers.
What else? You expect us to sneak down?
Well, we'll find out just what devilment they have in mind next time in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or the Quick Launch Counter.
And now it's time for...
Time for the dancing fool, Bullwinkle.
Again? And now for one of our special fairy tales.
Yeah.
There once lived a king who almost became famous for inventing the game of golf. It occurred to him one day that it might be fun to strike a ball with a stick, so he did just that. The ball flew into the air, sliced, and fell into a deep thicket.
I goofed.
Each time he hit the ball, the same thing happened.
I goofed. I goofed. I goofed.
I beg your pardon, sire, but what is that you're doing?
Why, it's quite simple. I'm playing a round of goof.
He was close, but not close enough. He did, however, become famous for something else. It happened one morning as he was playing 17 holes of goof, when his ball, which sliced as usual,
If ever I catch the blockhead who broke my window,
I am the blockhead who broke your window, and you will what?
Your Highness, well, I'll just have to say, you certainly are truthful.
The word of this deed spread through the kingdom like wildfire.
The king told the truth. Yes, we have a truthful king.
That wasn't all, for when the king said to the butcher,
I'm sorry that I broke your window, and I promise that I will pay for it out of the tax money.
early the next morning,
Hear ye, hear ye! All butchers in this shop. It's time to pay the weenie tax.
Already, it seems like I paid the weenie tax just yesterday.
You did, but it's time again.
the butcher paid the king the 20-wrinkle weenie tax.
That is for the window I broke yesterday. The king kept his promise.
Kept his promise.
Kept his promise?
Thus it was that the king became famous. The king was very proud of this reputation, but it was soon to lead him into a tragic situation. For in the woods, just out of town, there lived an old witch who was the best evil witch in the land. One day, as she was in the woods walking her bat, she chanced to see the king who was out for his daily round of goof.
3.
And the witch fell in love.
Oh, boy, are you good looking.
Please, don't talk to me in my backswing.
That's a nasty slice you got there, but I don't care. I'll marry anyway.
What are you, a comedian or something?
No, I'm an ugly old witch.
I noticed that. Now go away. You're goofing up my goof game.
The witch knew that the only way she could get the king to marry her was by trickery. So, mixing a special brew, she was waiting when the king came out to play the following day. No sooner had she drunk the mixture when she turned into a beautiful princess. When the king approached looking for his goofball,
Pardon me, ma'am. Did you happen to see a... Boy, are you good looking?
I know. Do you want to get married?
Heck yes.
Promise?
I promise.
happy as the king hurried her back to his castle to prepare for the wedding. Unfortunately, the spell that she had cast upon herself was a short one, and when the clock in the tower struck 12, the spell was broken.
Surprise, honey bun!
You! Oh, good grief, I'm a victim.
A handsome victim, and you still have to marry me because you promised.
It was true, for being the king who never broke a promise, he knew he was trapped. Quickly, calling a meeting of his royal advisors, he demanded that they find a solution to his problem.
There is only one way, Your Highness. You must get the magic wishbone from the Black Castle, but it will be very dangerous.
What kind of dangerous?
Well, you've got to defeat a dragon, a few ogres, you know, the usual thing.
Well, just tell me where to go. I'll do anything.
In less than an hour, the king was ready and on his way. The mere thought of having to keep his promise to marry the witch gave him the heart of a lion, and in less than 2 hours, he had defeated a dragon, an ogre, and a troll.
Hey, what's a big idea?
And a troll. Sighting the Black Castle, he dashed inside, and there, just as he had been told, he found the huge magic wishbone. He turned to his own castle just as his wedding to the witch was about to start.
Come on, sweetie. They're playing our song.
Wait a minute. Before we go, I want to make a wish.
A wishbone? How nice.
Ready?
Ready, honey bun.
They gave a tug. And just as it usually happens in fairy tales, the good guy got the biggest half.
I got my wish.
Good for you, honey bun. What did you wish?
I wish that I had never promised to marry you. So now I have never promised to marry you, and I don't have to marry you without breaking a promise, if you know what I mean.
As confusing as it was, she did know.
Why, you... Well, just for that, I'm going to cast a spell on you that folks will talk about for years.
And when the smoke cleared, she had disappeared. Well, now, it goes without saying that the king never made another promise. He played goof happily ever after. And one day, he even made a hole-in-one.
I goofed.
And now for all you knowledge seekers, here's Mr. Know-It-All.
Hi there! Today's subject is how to open a jar of pickles. The simplest way to open a jar of pickles is to unscrew the lid, turning gently from left to right. Oh! If that doesn't work, turn it right to left. Oh! Well, there are other ways of opening it. Putting the jar under hot water will usually do the trick, and if you happen to be in Yellowstone Park, the best hot water comes up out of Old Faithful the geyser. You place the jar right over the hole, taking care to be well clear before the geezer goes... When you get out of the hospital, you take a slightly different approach.
I got the hammer, Mr. Know-It-all.
Splendid, splendid. When the lid is tapped, it is certain to loosen. Now, when I nod my head, you hit it with the hammer.
Right, Bullwinkle. Huh?
I think I made that perfectly clear. I said, when I nod my head, hit it with the hammer.
If you say so.
Okay, I nod thusly and... If everything else fails, we climb to an altitude of 5,000 feet and hurl the jar and ourselves earthward. Pocahontas! But if you really want to open a jar of pickles...
Wait a minute, Mr. Know-It-all. That isn't a jar of pickles. That's a jar of jelly.
No wonder I couldn't open it. It's jammed.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
And now it's time to meet Mr. Peabody.
Hello out there, Peabody here, and seated there, immersed in homework, is my boy Sherman.
Hi.
Making progress, Sherman?
I'm afraid not, Mr. Peabody. I seem to be having trouble drawing a straight line. Sure wish I had my Oliver Cromwell.
And what, pray tell, is your Oliver Cromwell?
It's an English ruler. I had it in my desk yesterday, but I seem to have...
That's enough homework, Sherman. Go set the Wayback Controls for the year 1539.
Where are we off to today?
You should be off to bed. Instead, I am taking you back to visit another English ruler, Henry VIII. We made a straight line into the Wayback Machine, and in less time than it takes to tell, we're standing inside the kitchen of Henry VIII's castle, where Henry was in the act of admonishing his head cook, who might soon become his headless cook.
Earth, varlet, for this you shall die.
Excuse us, your eighth-ness, but what has he done?
This is what he's done.
The embittered monarch pointed to a large platter.
Eggs over easy, Canadian bacon, 2 pieces of toast. What's wrong with that?
There's no jelly on the toast.
This, of course, was akin to treason.
I searched everywhere, Your Majesty, but I couldn't find any jelly.
Off with his head.
You can't do that.
What do you mean I can't do that?
Well, if jelly is all that's bothering you, we'll get some.
So saying, Sherman took the cook by the hand and, with yours truly bringing up the rear, left the castle.
I admire your spunk, little boy, but jelly is scarce in England.
Don't you worry, Mr. Cook. Boys my age can smoke jelly out no matter where it is. Right, Mr. Peabody?
We entered the quaint village of Hangnail on the Pinky, where a county fair was in progress.
Look, Mr. Peabody, big contest. First prize, jar of homemade jelly.
Sherman lost no time in signing us up for the big contest, but in trying to win the jelly, he got us into a jam.
If it's a cooking contest, we'll win hands down.
Hands up would be more appropriate, for Sherman has signed us up for a tug of war.
You three will stand on this side of the mud pit. Your opponents will stand on the other. The team that pulls the other into the mud wins.
This ought to be easy, Mr. Peabody.
Easy to say, perhaps, but to do is quite another matter. For just then we saw the other team grab their end of the rope.
They're huge, Mr. Peabody.
So is our task.
Well, here's mud in your eye.
And with that, the starting signal was given and the rope snapped taut. Effortlessly, they pulled us nearer and nearer to the gooey mess.
Mr. Peabody, we're going in.
I had to act and act fast. Noticing that each of our adversaries had a large anchor tattooed on his arm gave me the answer.
What do we do, Mr. Peabody?
Shout 2 words, Sherman. Sail ho.
Sail ho!
With that, our opponents, obviously sailors, took one hand from the rope, raised it to their brows, and scanned the horizon for an approaching vessel. That was all we needed. In that off-balance position, we gave a sudden jerk.
We did it! We won!
The judge awarded us the coveted jar of jelly.
Quick, let's get it back to the castle before King Henry finishes breakfast.
That is not a very dainty dish to set before a king. Taste it, Sherman.
Ew, it tastes like mud.
It is mud. Those 3 sailors were poor losers and switched jars on us.
Then they have the real jelly.
But not for long. In the mud pit, their trail was easy to follow. Large, muddy footprints led directly to an old mill. Peeking through a dusty window, we saw the 3 culprits sitting in a circle, the jar of jelly to one side and a pop-up toaster in the middle.
good heavens. That toast will be done any second. Then it's goodbye, Jelly.
There's not a moment to lose. Fortunately, this was an old flour mill, so I instructed the cook to whip up some custard pies post-haste, which he managed to do in an incredibly short time.
What shall I do with them?
They're ammunition. Stand here and fire when I give the word.
The toast is popping, Mr. Peabody.
So am I. You can imagine their shock when I dashed into their midst and plucked the jar of jelly.
Go, blimey, it's him what put us into the blinking mud. Grab him, boys!
But before they could touch me, I lateraled the jelly to Sherman, who was standing in the doorway. Run, Sherman! And run he did with the scumbags hot on his heels. But no sooner did they emerge from the mill. Fire when ready! Of course, with custard in their eyes, they lost all sense of direction and stumbled into the old mill stream. A trifle later, Henry VIII finished his breakfast with jelly on his toast.
Deliciously delightful. Cook, I shall knight you for this.
Well, that ends that, Mr. Peabody.
Yes, I think it's time we returned home. Just then we saw in the courtyard a woman facing a squad of guards.
Who's that?
Henry's fifth wife, Catherine Parr. She's about to be executed.
But the guards are aiming at her with golf clubs.
Well, how else would you shoot Parr?
Last time, Boris and Natasha had managed to smuggle their goof gas gun onto one of our secret missile bases. Oh, is there no way they can be stopped?
Only if the show is cancelled, buddy.
In that case, go ahead.
This way, Natasha.
Where to, Boris?
To the main control center.
Halt! Who's there?
What is it you wanted, young man?
Conductor, could you let me off at Mashola Parkway?
Boris, he's as dumb as they go.
And they're going any minute.
And, oh dear, inside the control center, a gaggle of America's jet-age whiz kids had prepared the greatest series of blast-offs of American missiles. And suddenly the door swung open. Boris emptied the entire remainder of his goof gas in the close quarters of the control room. The result, of course, was chaos. Some scientists began playing ball.
1, 2, 3, O'Leary. 4, 5, 6, O'Leary.
Others gathered stupidly in front of the control panel.
Look at the pretty light. Maybe we can make them spell something.
How about General Lejeune is a dope?
Oh, Werner, you're such a clown.
And the scientists began to flip the switches to try to spell words on the light panel. As a result, the United States made one of the strangest multiple launches ever recorded. Unfortunately, they all had one thing in common. They were all headed for parts of the United States itself.
Bullwinkle, we have to change the course of these missiles.
A good idea.
Some plucky fella's got to shift them off course.
True.
Bullwinkle, will you for heaven's sake ask me how we're going to do it?
Oh, of course. But, gee, Rock, how are we going to do it?
Boy, try to be a modest hero in this program.
Okay. How?
I fly up to those missiles and direct them somewhere else.
It'll never work.
What makes you say so, Captain?
Oh, I'm just helping to build up suspense.
Ready, Bullwinkle?
Ready, Rock.
Then hurry!
Oop!
And the plucky squirrel hurtled up, and up. Faster and faster he went until he began to trail a thin black plume behind him.
Hokey smoke! Smoke!
Yes, he was going so fast that the friction of air was beginning to singe his fur, but that didn't stop our boy. Squirrel! Approaching the first missile, he shoved its nose violently to one side. Then he did the same with another, and still another, until he had redirected every missile out over the ocean. Then down he plunged, getting hotter and hotter.
Heavens to Eliza, he's a little fuzzy comet.
Fortunately, when the now almost hairless Rocky returned to Earth, Bullwinkle was waiting with a tub of water. Meanwhile, Boris was already in touch with the dictator of Pennsylvania.
You should have seen those crazy missiles, Chief. All directions at once.
And where are they all aimed now, Badinov?
Where are they all aimed now? Who knows?
Who knows? I'll tell you who knows. I know.
Boris, all those missiles landed right on Pennsylvania.
Well, time for a little vacation, Natasha.
Where?
How about the South Pole?
You know, Boris, this makes us look pretty stupid.
But there's one way you could look smarter, Natasha.
How's that, darling?
Shut up, you mouth!
And back in Frostbite Falls...
Gunny sacks, Rock. You've been appointed a official astronaut.
That's That's astronaut.
Funnier my way.
Oh, it was nothing that any patriotic flying squirrel wouldn't have done.
Rocky, there's only one word to describe a hero like you.
And that is?
Bold.
Be with us next time for the further adventures of Rocky the Flying Squirrel and his pal Bullwinkle.
Hooray! Hey, that's me. Hi there! Today's poem is all about my grandfather's clock.
Sure is a big one.
Yup. My grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood 90 years on the floor.
How come it's not running?
See, it says always his treasure and pride. It stopped short, never to go again when the old moose died.
Your grandfather's dead, Bullwinkle?
Not exactly. He just sort of disappeared. But that doesn't rhyme so good.
And the clock hasn't run all these years, huh?
What do you mean all these years? He disappeared yesterday.
Yesterday? And the clock stopped? Hey, do you suppose...
Uh-oh. Let me open her up. Grandpa, it's you!
You're expecting maybe John Cameron Swayze?
Well, if that don't beat all, how could anybody be so stupid as to get locked up in a clock?
Stupid? Why, it's easy. Like this.
Oh!
Now there's something you don't see every day, Rocky.
What's that, Grandpa?
A clock with a face on both sides.